My song for the day today, before we kick into the news, so I was off the grid for a little bit. I was I was still paying attention to the news a little bit, and I was making some videos. You guys probably saw. I would do like just kind of one story and just do like a quick little video on it and then post it. Um, but I was, comparatively speaking, off the grid. I wasn't tweeting very often. I wasn't posting very much. And I was kind of just enjoying a little bit of downtime. I was going to the beach. I was reading, which I finished Medea Benjamin's book. Stumbled over that one. I finished Medea Benjamin's book on Iraq. I did a video about it on Sunday. Check out that book. It's a really cool book. That was my beach reading, but I really enjoyed it. So I finished that book, and I'm on to something new now. And what I think I'm going to be doing next, which brings us to our song of the day. There's a songwriter who is sadly no longer with us named Jason Molina. Jason Molina was one of those true kind of heartland vagabonds. His music is heartland rock and roll with a very dark indie twist to it. And it's really, really great songwriting. He's had a couple different formations of his music. He played under the pseudonym Songs Ohio. He also just played under his own name, Jason Molina. And he formed a band called Magnolia Electric Company, which was also one of the names of one of his albums. And he was fantastic. He was signed to the Bloomington, Indiana-based label Secretly Canadian Records, which I, of course, have a fondness towards since I attended Indiana University and spent a lot of time in Bloomington and kind of embraced the Bloomington music scene when I lived there. And he died a little while back at this point, a couple years back. He would kind of go off the grid a lot. So kind of whenever you're off the grid, which I was to an extent, it's really cool music to listen to. Unfortunately, when he would go off the grid, it wasn't just to write music and recharge. He also had some demons, and he really battled with alcoholism. And that alcoholism eventually took his life. There's a book about him that's out now. I just put it on reserve at my local library. Support your local library. And I look forward to checking out that book about Jason Molina's life. I met him in person once when I was in college. So there was a little radio station house for the campus radio station, WIUS, which is now WIUX, but it was WIUS at the time. And they would have live shows. And Jason Molina lived in town in Bloomington for a little bit before he eventually relocated to Chicago. But I think he was either in Bloomington at this point or at least was visiting. And there was a show by another artist called Elephant Micah, another great secretly Canadian singer-songwriter. And Jason Molina was in the audience. I actually didn't recognize him. I knew who he was, but I didn't recognize him when I saw him in person. But the friend that I was with, that was weird. That was an ad from one of our stories today. But a friend of mine that I was with recognized him, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's Jason Molina," and she was too shy to say anything to him. And I was like, "Well, just go say hi." And she was like, "I can't." And I was like, "Well, I will. I don't care. I didn't even realize that was Jason Molina. I like his songs. I'll say hi to him." So I went up and I said, "Hello." And I shook his hand. And then I said, "Good show" to Elephant Micah because the two of them were talking. And then they talked to us for a few minutes. And they were both super nice. So anyway, I did meet Jason Molina, and I've seen Magnolia Electric Company. The song for the day is Josephine, off of the album Josephine by Magnolia Electric Company. That was one of their more recent albums, maybe their most recent album before Jason Molina's death. And it's a really cool listen. It really captures what his songwriting was all about. Great heartland rock and roll with a dark twist, again. I recommend, if you're not familiar with Jason Molina's work, starting with Josephine. Check out the title track. Check out Josephine, Magnolia Electric Company, Josephine, and then work backwards. And check out the rest of that album. Check out some of his work before Magnolia Electric Company, his work with Songs Ohio, and his work as just Jason Molina. And that's a good way to kind of get into his music and what he's all about. He was a true American vagabond. He was a true heartland songwriter. And whenever I kind of go off the grid, he's one of the songwriters I think about. And again, he spent a lot of time off the grid himself. Unfortunately, not all that was just recharging or writing or finding inspiration in nature. Unfortunately, he also had his demons with alcoholism. But he left us some great songs. I look forward to reading the book about his life. I don't know much about his life. I mean, I know I would see him around Bloomington that one time, and then I would see him when he would do shows in Bloomington. I know some of the members of his band still live in Bloomington. So I'm a little bit familiar just because of that point of reference, because I went to college there. But I don't know a ton about his life. And I look forward to reading the book about him. I mean, I remember hearing about his death. It was very sad. But I look forward to learning more about his life once that book comes into my local library.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your